Hello, do you like math? No, neither do I. So let's create a video about it and try and make it somewhat interesting. My name's Andy, this is Astronomical, and today we're going to learn about some math functions in Integromat. So let's hop in. So here we are in our Integromat base, which I've prepared a bunch of data for us. So we don't really need to know how I got that data, but the data is coming from Airtable, and we've got an array of two people basically. So you can see we've got Odie Kopic and we've got Sig Harlot. Now, I guess the key thing we might want to do is get some more data in there. So I'm going to actually just add a few more people into the mix. So we've got maybe a bigger batch of people to work from. So I'm just going to run that again in Integromat. Great. So we can see we've got a lot of kind of information about people. And as this is a numbers video, we're going to start to really figure out what some numbers mean, I guess. Right, so in this case, let's start thinking about a few different types of things we can do with numbers. Now, why don't we think about the average? Let's say we want to get the average age of all of these people, right? So the best way to do that is we're going to set up a variable, and I'm going to set up an individual variable for each one of these. Usually in Integromat, I would recommend just doing it and setting multiple variables. But I really want you to see what I'm doing here for each one. So we can say average age is a variable. And we're going to get the variable value, so we can see here, we can see here we've got an array, right? And it's an array of different people. Now, what we might want to actually do is grab the age of that person, right? Now, if I do this, it's not going to do much. It's just going to give us one person's age, right? Which will be 47 based on what we just saw. Now, that's not very useful, right? Or 37, as we can see here. So we can see it brought in the age of, who did it bring in? The age of, I don't know, variable value, average age, 37. So I think it'll have brought in the last age, right? You can see here probably this person is 37, right? So the very first one, right? And that's not what we want. We want to actually go through the whole entire array and get the average age, right? So instead of choosing the index of the array, which as you can see is 1, we want to bring in the whole array, but we actually want to bring in the whole array as a map, right? So let's do that. And what a map does is it allows us to pick off a value in that array and create a brand new array just of that value. So if I do this, this will then give us an array of all of these ages, right? So you can see it's taking the array from the aggregator, and we're using the map to extract the age in this case, but we can obviously do that with anything really. So I'm going to run that again, and this should now give us an array, which is what we want. I hope. So average age, yeah, it gives us an array of their ages. So 37 was the first one, and obviously we've got all of these kind of different ages in there. Great. Now, if we wanted to start to make an average of that, right? So what we need to do is use the math functions, and we can see here we've got the average. Now, because we've got that array of values, we can pass that in, right? So I've just copied that to my clipboard and pasted it in. And now we will be able to get the average age of those people. So let's run that now. And you can see, hopefully, you can see the average is 62.166. Now that's fine, but what happens if we actually wanted to parse that as a kind of integer, right? So in this case, we can see here, we use the round, right? As you can see, it rounds a numeric value to the nearest integer. So as you can see, I've got this in my clipboard. I'm just going to copy it all. And then we're going to use round, right? So round, and we pass it through. And then this will round that entire number to the nearest integer. So instead of the average age being 62.177, it will be 62. Hopefully that all makes sense. And we can actually start to apply that logic with lots of other things we might want to do. For example, now what we want to do is maybe get the maximum value. So who has the maximum value, right? Of who's the oldest person in our group. So we can do that by setting a variable again. So we're going to set a variable. And we can use much of the same logic, right? But we can get rid of average, we can get rid of round and the two brackets. And obviously we've got the map of the age, which is what we want. Now what we can do is get the oldest age, right? Or so get the highest age. And we can do that by using max. So we can bring that through and get the maximum age here, and we call it oldest. Or, okay, max age. Great. So we run that again. We can now find, because we've got that array and we just passed that in, hopefully it will tell us, yes, the maximum age is 98. Now we can do a very similar thing with min, and it's super easy. We can copy that, and instead of calling this max, we can just make it min. And run it again. So we've got average age, maximum age, and minimum age of these people, and we got 19. Now we've got all of these people, and I think what we might want to do is parse out the numbers. So let's say that they've all got addresses, which they do. Why don't we find the number? So get the address number of each of these people. Now we can do that here by bringing in their address. So you can say street address here, and we want to make that house number. Let's call it house number. And we're going to use the street address, but in this case, we're actually going to say parse number. And that will give us, for everybody, oh, it failed. Why did it fail? Okay, so if that's not working, what we want to do is we first of all want to assume that the number is the first record of, or so the first thing we'll see in the address. So we can use a text formatter to split. Now, I don't know whether you remember split, but we covered that in a previous video. Now, split will allow us to split the address. So we want to split that address here, and we want to split it using a space. So we can use space. Space. So we space, and then what we can do is also just get the very first record here of that. So we use get one. So we're splitting it up and we're getting the first record. Then what we can do is parse the number out using the very first record. So hopefully we won't get an error in this time. If we do, then I'm rubbish. Oh no, I'm not. Good, that's nice to know. I mean, I did set the entire definition of whether I was rubbish, but it turned out I'm not rubbish. But as you can see, that's brought out 2810 and it didn't error. Now, what we did there, just to recap, was we used a split. So we assumed that the number was the first item on the text. We grabbed that number, and instead of trying to parse out the text, we actually just parsed out only the number, and we're able to turn it into a number. Great. I think that is about enough numbers for me today. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, and if you have any strong feelings about it, please hit the like button. I really appreciate you watching, and chances are you came here from Google trying to find out how to deal with numbers. So if I didn't answer your question, put a comment in below and ask me it, and I'll try and create another video about it. Always a pleasure, and thanks very much. Bye.